theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Don't blink as the world turns. There's always something new in the trade and tariff front. That's what happens when you do Liberation Day in Moss. So the steel tariffs consummating, backing the Nippon-U.S. Steel merger.
Big announcement on last Friday. Trump went to Pennsylvania.
And so, and then he imposed 50% steel tariffs. Mm-hmm. And the EU has responded, suggesting they're unhappy. And Kevin Hassett, who is one of Trump's econ advisors, had this to say about that on Sunday on Clinton Foundation Donor Zero show.
Right. Well, the problem is there's an OECD study, it comes from Paris, that says that because Chinese steel production is something like double the global capacity, the steel industries all across the world are in trouble because of China dumping of steel. And China's doing that not just because they love us and they want to give us nice steel. They're doing that because it prepares them to win a war because they're the only ones who can make steel. And so President Trump is going to make sure that that never happens in the U.S., that we don't have the steel we need in case of war, and Europe should do that as well.
Yeah, but I asked you about the European response. I mean, they say they're going to...
The European response is they should protect their steel, too. I mean, the bottom line is that we can't go into... We don't ever want to have a war. In fact, President Trump, we expect, is going to have a wonderful conversation about the trade negotiations this week with President Xi. That's our expectation. But the bottom line is that we've got to be ready in case things don't happen the way we want. Because if we have cannons but not cannonballs, then we can't fight a war. And if we don't have steel, then the U.S. isn't ready and we're not preparing ourselves for something. And if we're not strong, then that's when bad things happen. So we have to show strength. We have to have a steel industry that's ready for American defense.
The argument of the autarkist. Philip Bell, he's a rep for the Steel Manufacturers Association, was on with Stuart Varney. Okay, so if you're going to erect barriers to the importation of steel from China, and the EU will follow suit with respect to steel on the European continent, then do steel manufacturers here, domestic steel manufacturers, are they prepared to meet the market demand? Here's Philip Bell's response.
There is enough modern and efficient steelmaking capacity here in the U.S. to meet any increases in domestic demand. And that's why we support what the president is doing with his trade and tariff policy. I think he is determined to make sure that as much of the steel as possible that's used in our critical infrastructure, manufacturing, energy, and national defense is made here in America, by Americans, and for Americans.
Mm-hmm. For more on the ongoing trade and tariff conversations and policy promulgations, Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffers. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning, guys.
So what about what Kevin Hassett had to say? Does he really believe that?
Kevin Hassett is a very smart economist, good friend of mine, really a top-notch guy. I don't necessarily agree with him on this. I think that, and by the way, I'm not a national security or a defense expert, so these national security concerns I'm not really well qualified to comment on. But I will tell you this, that we did try steel tariffs in Trump's first term. And just in terms of, if the objective here is to save manufacturing jobs, it's not a very good way to do it, Dan and Amy, because what we found is that there are a couple thousand jobs in the steel industry that were saved by the steel tariffs. But at the same time, we lost thousands and thousands and thousands of other manufacturing jobs, including in the auto industry, because our steel was more expensive. And so as a job-saving, strategy, it doesn't work. We'd be much better off. Look, if the Chinese wanted to give us steel for free, would we have a problem with that?
I don't know. We take planes from Qatar for free, so yeah, why not free Chinese steel, right?
So, one of the ironies of this, I was, and I was listening to Kevin talk, and again, he's a good friend of mine, and I think he there's some wisdom in what he's saying. But, on the other hand, the Chinese have a cornered the market on some of these precious minerals, and now they're saying they're not going to sell them to us. So, on the one hand, it's evil if they don't sell the stuff to us. On the other hand, it's evil if they do sell it to us. We ought to, have some steel making capacity in the United States, but I think we're much better off as an economic powerhouse through free trade. It's worked for us for 100 years. Why would not now be different?
On the good news front, I did want to get to this because energy policy is so mission critical to our economic prosperity. We haven't heard much from him, but he's been doing some good work. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, former North Dakota governor.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
He's up in Alaska, and he was there for the sort of announcement of this LNG pipeline that's going to be built next to the existing 48-year-old pipeline in Alaska, and here's how that went.
The Alaska LNG pipeline's been talked about for decades. This is not a new thing. I want to be clear. Where do we stand right now with permitting? If there's funding, could this actually go forward?
The permits virtually are all in line, issued, and ready to go for the Alaska pipeline. And what you've had in the background of your shot here, Brian, is this amazing technological marvel called the original pipeline, celebrating its 48th anniversary. Starts at sea level, ends at sea level, crosses over 4,100 feet, goes through 3 mountain passes. You see it above ground here because of the permafrost. This thing was built in 2 years and 2 months, and it's been one of the great gifts of technological innovation that's helped our whole country and helped the world. Building the Alaska LNG pipeline on a route right next to it is simpler than what these guys did 48 years ago because the route is there, there's a road there. They had to build all the infrastructure and the road the same time they were building this. So yes, the permits are in place. There's additional land transfers that are occurring between the Department of Interior and the state of Alaska. And then, of course, we've got the resource. I mean, where in the world do you have an existing oil pipeline that's can double its capacity? You don't have to build a new pipeline. It's just an existing pipeline. At its peak, it carried 2.2 million barrels a day. Now it's only 500,000. You could actually quadruple what you put through it.
Drill, baby, drill, Steve.
I guess the Secretary of Interior doesn't care about the caribou and the polar bears. By the way, they say that, of course, facetiously because many years ago I did a study on the Great Alaska Pipeline, which really was a marvel, and it's amazing that it actually got built. It's been huge for our economy that we've been able to get all of this oil from the North Slope and from other areas of Alaska, which are incredibly oil and gas rich. And the environmentalists totally, opposed that. They threw their bodies in front of the pipeline. Oh, my God, the caribou. We're not going to have any deer or caribou or polar bears anymore. And, of course, it's been a huge success. But I wouldn't be surprised if the environmentalists try to throw up objections to this, too. But we obviously need this. And it ties into what we were just talking about, by the way. If we want to be number one economically, if we want to produce steel, it would help a lot if we had abundant and cheap energy, right? Because steel production uses a lot of energy. So this is good news. I love Doug Burgum. He's been a fantastic Interior Secretary. He's drill, baby, drill, mine, baby, mine. We can get a lot of these resources here in our own backyard.
Yeah, and it also speaks to, a bygone era when we could build a pipeline, the technology of the day 50 years ago, in 2.5 years, and not be hamstrung the way we are with every project to increase our capacity to be energy independent,
By the way,
as we have been today.
Stories, when they talked about, it's going to kill the caribou and the deer and the polar bears. No, actually, what they do, because a lot of the stuff is warm, the liquid and the gas that comes through so the pipelines are warm. So the caribou and the polar bears, they rub their backs on the pipes.
Oh, there you go, free massage. What could go wrong?
Yeah,
but it's a safer form of transportation than taking trucks. mean, because they get into accidents. The pipeline it's the way to go.
Of course, pipelines.
Nobody
That's why I could
brings
never
that up.
understand. You're quite right about that. I mean, why did the left put so much objection to pipelines? That's by far the most environmentally sensitive way to transport oil and gas through pipelines, not on trucks and not on rail and having accidents and things like that. So this is good news. This is a president who wants to produce our resources. We should do that. We have probably $50 trillion of oil and gas in this country, and we have another $10 trillion of minerals. We should go at it, get it. It's right in our backyard. Why should we have to get it from China and Russia and all these other, Saudi Arabia and the Middle East?
Hey, have you watched Blown Away, Exposing the Wind Scam by Steve Cortez?
No.
It's a new documentary that's out. You can see it out on X, but basically he talks about the TV show Landman, that he got it right, that windmills make no economic sense and they harm the environment and pollute America's
okay. So this is called
vistas.
Blown Away?
Blown Away. You should see it. It's
And
25
what is it? How do I
minutes
get
long.
it? What is it at? What
Just
channel
go
is
on
it
X and go on X or Twitter.
Okay.
And Stephen
got it.
Cortez.
He's a good friend. I have to watch that.
Yeah,
the windmills. By the way, we've spent, and by my estimate, something like $500 billion on windmills of taxpayer money, and today we get about 2 or 3% of our energy from windmills.
The big beautiful bill.
There's been a high return on our investment, wouldn't you say?
Yes. On the tax and spend side, Elon Musk observed this week that he learned from his time at Doge that a bill can be big or beautiful, but probably not both. Nonetheless, the big beautiful bill is scheduled to move by Independence Day. You think that's tracking as advertised?
Well, let me just say one thing about Elon Musk, because I really do view him as a hero and a patriot for what he did and came to Washington and really exposed to the American people, how rampant the fraud and theft and thievery and the amount of abuse and waste in our government. And he discovered that it was in the hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. And for doing that, he was completely pilloried by the left and turned into some kind of supervillain, when in fact I don't understand why the left loves to defend waste in our government, but they do. And so I wrote my column this week was called "Did Elon Musk drain the swamp, or did he drown in it?" And I'm not so sure which it was, but there's no saying in Washington, no good deed ever goes unpunished, and that certainly applies to Elon Musk. Now, on the budget situation, listen, this the more I look at these numbers, Dan and Amy, in terms of how much is being spent, the more outrageous it is. I mean, we, under the current baseline of spending over the next 10 years, we're expected to spend, the budget's supposed to go from $7 to $10 trillion. So over that period, we're supposed to ready with this $85 trillion is how much the federal government is supposed to spend. You know how much it spends under the Republican, the evil, mean-spirited, cold-blooded, Republican budget? You know how much it spends?
83 trillion.
83.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Draconian.
The world's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
We only spent $83 trillion. I mean, the kittens are going to die, and people aren't going to get health care coverage, and grandma's going to be thrown over the cliff in her. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. So this is not a budget that is serious about cutting spending. I'm more and more furious about this. I think Ron Johnson of Wisconsin and Rand Paul are two of the only people who are actually serious about doing anything about, the rampant growth of a government in this country. And it's a sad situation. I don't know, Dan, what do you got? Dan, what do you think?
I think that's a pretty fair summation. But the reality is, this is going to move in some form something similar to what the House passed, I suspect, and it will get done by July 4th because it has to get done for the tax relief side of it, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, the only thing I disagree with you a little bit about, I think I would love to see it on July 4th. That would be a great. And you're right. We absolutely have to, pass this tax bill, or else everybody's tax bills are going to go way, way up starting January 1st.
Yeah, we didn't vote for that.
Yeah, failure is not an option here, but I think July 4th is a little bit ambitious, Dan. I mean, I hope you're right. I think the sooner the better. But I've been in this town a long time, and they always wait to the last minute. When we passed the bill, the original 2017 Tax Cut and Job Act, it passed on December 22nd. of 2017. So they always wait till the last minute.
That was sort of
I hope you're right.
That was a different time and a different leverage that the president had at the time. But I mean,
Well, you have much more confidence in this Congress than I do.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying I don't really see. I mean, certainly. I mean, Ron Johnson, Rand Paul providing some pushback on the spend side, but that's really about it. So it's not the spend side that's going to hold things up because they're going to get more serious about spending reduction all of a sudden. That doesn't seem likely.
Well, the thing, I know we're out of time, but the thing that's infuriating to me is, and I know you all in high-tax Illinois love this, but we quadrupled the state and local tax deduction.
Right.
All we're doing by doing that, Dan, is basically, subsidizing Illinois and New York and New Jersey and California for the sky-high taxes. I don't understand the logic of that.
Yeah, me neither. But that's politics in the big city. Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again. Steve, thank you.
Okay, guys. Take care. Have a great week.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one. Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Attention! Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is no